If you do not want to change, if you do not want to better yourself, if you do not want to break outside of this matrix, if you want to live in your comfortable delusion that they have built for you, do not watch these videos. Leave this channel.
Because when I step to the game, I rip that shit apart.
Do not want any truth, if you don't want to understand, if you are not here to hear something that's outside of your own mind and accept others' minds and opinions the way they think for themselves, you do not belong here.
As hard as I can against all of the
if you are
odds,
not
pushing as hard as I could is what
be
got me so far.
positive, if you are not trying to help create solutions while we discuss the problems and how they got here, you do not belong here. Negativity, hate, disrespect, name calling, those things will not be allowed here on this platform and not in this empire. We are the ones, the true Americans, that want to be free and stand as we have always stood.
My lines burn like blunts getting smoked in the dark. Hella cooking shit up if your ass wanna spar. Barbecue your beef up like the seats in my car. Cool yourself off refrigerator and jar. Baby rappers be not like this is not an art. This is not an art. Huh, you forgot about that part. Lady rappers been acting like this is not an art. Huh, you forgot about that part. Yo, we in the building, y'all. You already know what time it is. Had a lot of stuff to do today. And once I accomplished everything, I felt like a baller. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I felt so good. I had to roll one of these. Yeah, feel me? I had to pull out the big boy. The big boy. Because today was a good-ass day. All right? I didn't get to go to work today because if you want the recap, last week on Friday, I went to go, the day off. I had to handle some business and I was supposed to do that registration. Bastards. You know how they like to try to overcharge you and this dumb shit. And as far as registration goes, once you buy the car, it's registered to you, even if your registration expires. If you get pulled over, they're going to know it's your car still. So I think it's kind of pointless to have to re-register your car. Like once you get a car, you should register it until you relinquish ownership of it. Then if then you should have to register. It should be a one-time thing. Registration should be a one-time thing. At least that's how I feel about it. But we handle business. We got that shit done today. So it's Friday. I do feel accomplished. So I don't know, man. I might go out. I might go out tonight, just for a little, R&D, a little R&D, a little research and development. It's been a while since I went out and did like an interview type of thing. Well, I haven't. I've been thinking about doing a live interview thing, but I have to find a partner, somebody that can work the camera, and possibly somebody else that we could go off of. I think that would be a good thing. It'll be more entertaining for you guys as well. I definitely think about these things quite often because in the grand scheme of all of it, we're here to do our best to try to get better every day. All right? We definitely want to be the best we can be. We're always trying to get better. Okay? That's one of the goals here. All right. So I was working on this proposal. I don't have the final draft ready yet, but I am editing right now. As we speak, I was actually working on it. But we have the total entity revenue. Okay, we're upgrading for this word because everybody keeps getting mad at gross. And we will run it back through the AI. We'll see how the AI feels about it. All right. I'm sorry. I know I should have probably finished it before I came on, but I'm on a time limit here. I only have so many hours in a day. So right now, I'm in the process of putting it together. All I'm doing is trying to change certain words here and there. While I work on this, I'm actually going to pull up something relevant to today. A lot of people already heard the Donald Trump speech or whatever, so I'm not going to play it, and I'm not going to comment on it. I mean, I might comment on it. Okay, that might be a thing I do. But I definitely have a soft spot in my heart for what's happening in the world. Oh, let me do my shout out real quick to all the people that did overtime, all the people that were working today. Without you, the world wouldn't go around. Everybody that was working, I was out there. You know, you guys were helping me. I was dealing with y'all on the regular. And I gotta say, America has the best customer service in the world. We don't get appreciated enough, you know, and it doesn't get appreciated enough. Saying I appreciate you, thank you, you know, being pleasant with the people that have to, like, face-to-face deal with you. Like, when you're on the phone, whatever, you can have your attitude. Like, I get that. But the customer service, they keep their composure for the most part. If they start to get agitated, they'll just hang up on your ass. I love it. Okay, cool. Perky dropped something. Let's see what Perky talked about. Quick.
We are back with some more.
I definitely don't want to get any copyright stuff. I really like Perky. She's awesome. She's like the best at what she does. She makes it entertaining, and she does what she's supposed to do. Other guys, it's not as entertaining because they'll be a little more. It depends because some of them have this. It's all about personality, man. It really is when you're up here. I don't have any personality. I mean, not that I know she is. But I'm finna do this. And then I'm gonna run this real quick. So this is Perky. She's awesome. We're gonna just let that run. I'm trying to get the Stewart Act together right now. I'm actually going over the paperwork, and I'm gonna get it printed and I'm gonna put it up here. But this is just some shit in the meantime, real quick. We're just gonna
Juicy, crazy theories from all around the world sent in by you all. They're gonna make a.
But before we do it, I have to actually run this.
make us rethink every single video. Huge shout out to you, Titan, for the next couple of videos I'm about to show.
You straight. If you don't think this Tyler Robinson thing is even a little bit fishy, your brain isn't working correctly. And I may seem radical, sure, but the fact of the matter is I have more common sense and reasoning skill than most of you. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck, so why are half the people calling it a goose? You could hide in a dark alley, shoot a random stranger walking down the street with zero motive, and they'd know who did it in a matter of hours. And you can bet your sweet case they put together against you is gonna be airtight. So why is it that in a case set at a public event with more cameras and microphones rolling than probably anywhere else within a 100 square mile radius, are there so many holes in the story? If it doesn't make sense, it's because you're being lied to. It's like you don't want to believe it. And sure, it's far more comforting to just believe the propaganda, the media, the Fed's slop. He sent a text message, but somehow he was already in police custody. The casing didn't match. He disassembled the rifle on the roof and left the screwdriver up there, but reassembled the rifle in the woods. For what reason, I don't know. Oh, and everybody knows that the first thing you do after murdering somebody in cold blood is to text your entire manifesto to your boyfriend. I can think of another time where it should have been pretty cut and dry, but there were just as many questions as there were answers. Does JFK ring a bell? You're free to believe whatever slop you want, people. But my vote...
Are you doing it now?
Yeah, why? What, you're staring.
I'm invested. 4 ingredients. Works on the body, works on the brain.
That's perfect for me,
Why?
because I'm a brain first guy.
You're not a brain first.
I have thoughts.
Name one.
I'm having one right now.
15 minutes to kick in. Last 36 hours.
36? That's like a whole weekend.
That's a long weekend.
Can I just have a minute?
Why?
is real.
Just posting some videos of the Tyler Robinson and Charlie Kirk situation before I speak about the Joker video.
New video shows Tyler Robinson allegedly walking on campus before he allegedly carried out the shooting, according to prosecutors. And this video, you show him having changed clothes. You see he's wearing long pants instead of the shorts, and he has a limp. And prosecutors are saying that there was a weapon inside his pants that's causing this limp. So this is brand new video that has never been seen before. It was shown in a Utah courtroom as part of this week of preliminary hearings, where a judge at the end of it will decide if prosecutors have enough to take this case to trial. So our Carter Evans has been in the courtroom, and he says that Tyler Robinson has not turned around to look at the family. He's occasionally seemed relaxed, chatting, even smiling with his lawyers. He got very serious, though, during some of this video. There's another video that was shown today where you see a man wearing dark clothing running across the roof and jumping off the roof. We had seen similar video before, but this is the first time seeing this exact video as well. The defense attorney actually said that she wanted to block some of this video because this would be important and be central at trial, which is interesting. She used that term, and this is from Carter Evans' own analysis. You know, the fact that she's referring to a trial when we don't even know if it's going to it, although highly likely it will, of course, given the mountain of evidence that prosecutors have pulled together, and the fact that Tyler Robinson's own parents helped him turn himself into authorities. But still, that was interesting today. And what I'm waiting for, though, is I'm waiting to see this video that's been reported, potentially a video of Tyler Robinson's former roommate, who apparently is cooperating with prosecutors and gave a videotaped interview. So far, I have not seen that played, but I'm really waiting to hear what this person has to say, because there was a text message exchange that law enforcement and prosecutors have released to the public in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, where it appears that Tyler Robinson admitted to the shooting and says that he took the first opportunity that he had.
Everyone was saying that that's clearly two different people. This is not the same person. Glasses does not change a person's entire face, nor the hat.
A court has heard the man accused of killing American right-wing activist Charlie Kirk confessed to his roommate after the shooting.
His roommate.
Prosecutors say 23-year-old Tyler Robinson.
Ooh, let's pause that. So his roommate is giving lover. I am still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in something for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you. You weren't the one who did it, right? I am. I'm sorry. I thought they caught the person. No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I can't see it because this is in the way. Let me see if I can get that caption off. No. I had something from my drop point shortly after, but most okay.
Robinson sent text messages to his ex-roommate and romantic partner Lance Twiggs. The police interview aired at Robinson's pre-trial hearing in Utah.
I just asked him in person if what he said was true the night before, and he said it was. He started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it.
Tyler Robinson has been charged with aggravated murder and is yet to enter a plea.
That death was horrible to witness. I did not want to see. I'm so glad that they stopped it. What I was going to say in this video, I was going to just say was that they said that Tyler Robinson was in a CIA program in college. They said Judge Judy taught them a long time ago, if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. And that's basically what the Joker person was saying throughout the video.
If you're wondering why me and other content creators will not shut up about this PlayStation physical media thing, it's like this. Where apparently just days after the announcement, the CEO and president of Sony basically sold at like half of his shares after the announcement. Not only did he do that, but also other people that are like at the top of the top. The actual reason why video games feel like why business decisions suck right now, days after they made this announcement, which made their stock prices go up, they sold a whole bunch of their shares. $4.7 million worth of shares. Oh, wow. After the announcement.
It's not a
And if you think that this was just some big coincidence, you are genuinely like, you have rocks for brains. These are the people that are causing all of the headaches and all of the bad decisions in AAA gaming and are bloating the budgets and are crunch and all. Just this is the evil. This right here, the people like this is the evil. They're already shutting down factories that are making the disc. They are not going to budge on this decision at all, and they just want us to basically be quiet about it. Their mind is made up. I would argue. I will continue to bring this up over and over again for the next year or two until this decision finally goes through. I am more than happy to make the occasional video telling you how PlayStation is and how they want to kill the secondhand market and they just want to have a monopoly over what they have. If that annoys you, good. I'm glad it does, because being annoyed or at least seeing it over and over keeps reminding people and keeps letting people know that this is not just some small thing that should just go away after a while. Because even if you do not buy physical media, if you think that this will not affect you whenever you use your PlayStation, you are dead wrong. You're dead wrong and you don't understand the situation. This is bigger than just the physical discs. And if you can't see that, then you are a lost hope. And I'm not going to educate you on that because you just don't want to learn.
Waze just updated their terms and conditions, and buried inside is language that should make you delete the app today. As of August 1st, Waze is claiming a permanent, irrevocable license over everything you've ever contributed. Road reports, hazard alerts, every route you've driven. They can use it, sell it, and profit from it, even after you delete your account. But it gets worse. The new privacy policy now lets Waze pull contacts directly from your phone through a Find Friends feature, and it explicitly admits your location history and driving patterns are feeding into Google's full ad ecosystem, not just Waze, all of Google. They've also added a phrase nobody's talking about. They've changed planned drives to planned or predicted drives, meaning Waze can now profile trips you haven't even taken yet. If you want out, don't just uninstall. Go to settings, privacy, delete account. Uninstalling alone does nothing. Your data stays live for up to 2 months. Research the phrase perpetual, irrevocable license and tell me in the comments, are you keeping it or deleting it?
Y'all remember MapQuest? Sound like MapQuest is coming back. No, I never was a Waze person, so I never used it. I'm gonna be honest with you, I just use Apple Maps. That's just the only thing I've been using. But somebody said if you're upset about Waze terms and conditions, wait until you read TikTok's terms and conditions. Then they said, y'all know who this app is owned and regulated by. I don't think I need to say nothing because we've been reacting to who been doing stuff in the past couple reactions. It starts with an I, just in case y'all need a little hint. But at the end of the day, our phones do the same thing. Even if our location is off and if the phone is off, no matter what we do or what app we download, they are all doing the same thing.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform. Describe what you want, and watch it take shape.
So we can't get away from it unless we get away from smartphones, period.
Gucci Man, his whole tattoo is totally different from it's part of a cloning system.
They talking about the food we eat and drink, what they putting in it, they experimenting with it. Talking about hair product, they talking about music, how it's programming your mind. And black people in the hood to run these experiments, to clone them, to test out certain programs underground that they built underneath the hood, the ghetto, whatever you call it, wherever you from.
But Gucci Man, his whole tattoo is totally different from that Gucci Man. The gel is part of a cloning system. So again, you go back to they clone Tyrone, right? He said drug dealers, pimps, and hoes. So where are the drug dealers, pimps, and hoes gonna go? Chill. They're the first ones getting locked up.
And those are the easiest ones to clone.
In the military, because they're not around. Think about everybody that's hospital, everybody that switch out, like Michael Jackson, when they switched, that stuff happened with Michael Jackson. Put him in the hospital, he came back somebody totally different. Hospitals, military, and jails.
The jails and the hospitals, I find it a little harder because everything is so surveillance.
Come on now, I have 4 kids, I had C-section. So again, my whole baby daddy had to go this way, I got to go this way, and we meet up in the room.
That's true.
So you swapped out?
No, I'm just saying, Gucci Man, his whole tattoo is totally different from...
You see somebody struggling, you see somebody hurting, somebody starving, and you rush past them. Get away from me, man. Good go. We've decided that compassion ain't cool no more. We deserve to enjoy the planet. Well, I am enjoying the planet. I drive what I want to drive. I get to blow up what I want to blow up. I get to do what I want to do. Road tag. The greatest humans in history have all been compassionate. They all care for each other. We don't never remember the most selfish in history. We only know narcissists that had a cool name. We lost the plot as humanity. That is another heartbeat, lungs, eyeballs, a brain. The same mass, the same energy that you are. Their luck of the draw is no different than yours. We spit on the people that are at the bottom of life, yet they are the ones we walk on every day. Why is compassion not cool no more? Why is it okay to say I hate you instead of I love you? Why do you receive more likes when you're negative than when you're positive? Why do neighbors go 50 years living next to each other nowadays and don't even know each other's first name? Can't even ask each other for a bowl of sugar. Don't even know if their farts smell like curry in the morning. You used to be able to leave your children with your neighbors because y'all knew each other. You used to be able to go down the street and just see some people having a cookout and invite yourself in because they were so happy to see you. There's no neighborhoods anymore. The only way you know what's going on in your neighborhood, you got to download an app. Everybody's on Citizen and Zillow, but nobody's a citizen on their pillows. This is horrible. You don't want to admit that you've had problems in life, that people have hurt you, and that you've been jaded. And you won't move past it. People happen. We've got to move past it so we can grow, so we can live. Are we just going to hate each other forever? You're not cool. It's been hating forever. When we going to get an update on hating? When we going to get iOS 28 on hate? We've been on this intermission for years. It don't even make sense to hate no more. We all got so much going on in life. I got so many bills and problems. My knee hurt right now. What makes you think I can afford to hate you? We need compassion.
Congress just passed a bill that will force half the internet to scan your ID, and almost nobody is asking who ends up holding the data. The House just passed the Kids Internet and Digital Safety Act on June 29th, 267 to 117. It rolls 14 separate bills into one package. Basically, if a site is built for adults or even a third of its users are adults, it needs identity verification. Standard social platforms get age checks too. Apps are required to ship built-in parental controls. Autoplay, infinite scroll, and targeted ads aimed at minors get restricted. AI chatbots have to disclose that they are not human when a minor is talking to them. And multiplayer games get new communication controls. Data brokers face new registration and transparency rules, and the federal government gets expanded monitoring and reporting authority over how all of this gets enforced. Hi, I'm Cyber Misplaced. I'm a security engineer. If you're new here, drop a follow. If you got questions, drop them below. But let's go and unpack this a little bit more. Everyone online is framing this as a privacy versus child safety thing, but they're framing this as like the actual engineering problem. Age verification requires a system that collects, stores, and processes proof of who you are. A new database of IDs and selfies sitting on a server owned by a platform that has never had to secure anything like it before. If you're new here, we already ran this experiment. There was that T-app that was made for women by women to basically watch out for, predators or scumbags, etc. Well, they built their whole platform on identity verification. This included collecting government IDs and selfies before letting users in to confirm that they are a woman. Last July, a misconfigured storage bucket exposed 72,000 of those images. 13,000 of them IDs and verification selfies. Days later, a second exposure leaked over 1 million private messages. Trolls built a site to rate the stolen selfies and mapped users' locations from the photo metadata. There was a browsable map to see where these women lived. And that happened to a company whose entire pitch was safety. Look, here's my opinion on the entire take of the Kids Act, right? As a security engineer, you can't open a breach tracker without finding a new entry almost every week or every day. This bill is mandating that thousands of platforms, many with no real security budget, start collecting the exact data that gets exploited hardest when it leaks. And the version that got passed removed the duty of care provision, the part that would, force platforms to actually secure and limit what they collect. So the real question is not whether kids need protection online. Of course they do. But it's who answers for it when one of these new ID databases get breached and someone gets stalked or doxxed or worse, because we've seen the deadly outcomes from this. And this is all because Congress mandated that data existed in the first place. But the bill doesn't answer that. Anyway, I'm Cyber Misplays. Stay locked in. I'll see you in the next one.
You see how crazy that is? So the app that man referred to, which I never heard of it, was an app for women that would help protect the women from any kind of predators and stuff. But the app ended up making it to where all their stuff leaked and their stuff was out. So now they know where each woman lives and what each woman looks like. So there is no difference when it comes to them doing the Kids Act, of them doing age verifications and you having to submit photo IDs and stuff. Because then when that gets leaked, they're going to know what each child looks like and where each child stays. That's why I said it's more to it than just protection and security. It's something bigger than that.
Yeah, here we go again, dude. Time for you guys to immediately get rid of the Waze app, dude. You want to know why? Bro, this is crazy. I mean, it's nice, every once in a while you find out what the police might be. Well, guess what, dude? The United States of that country. Bro, I saw this and I was like, there's no way. What? What are you talking about, dude? It's governed by the laws of the state of Israel. That doesn't even make sense.
It don't.
And then when I went to the terms of use, dude, I mean, so yeah, it was sold to Google. But if you want to bring a cause of action against them, you literally got to sue Tel Aviv. So they also, I believe, are feeding information to flock cameras. Yeah. We're being invaded, and y'all better delete that quick.
I'm gonna lose it. I need to pull up the headline because I can't do this anymore. President Donald Trump has fired all 3 remaining members of the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, leaving the independent federal agency without a single commission officer and unable to take official action. Do we know what this means?
No.
Let's go deeper, people. Okay, so basically, because the commission has no more members, it can't conduct official business. The midterms are on hold. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? What happens now? What happens now? I hate you people. I hate you.
Now that was funny. Okay. Anyways, moving on. So I got it. It's right here. $75. I think you guys carry $75. I'll put it at 90. This is where I'm at. All right. We're gonna get to this. All right. Now I could change some shit. This is in type it up mode. So I can alter some shit if I need to. Alright, we're gonna get Rock's smart ass in here. Let's see what this bitch says. She's gonna trash it. Oh man. Alright, listen. Alright, I just sent you the updated version of the Stewardship Act. Can you please not use so much provocative and foul language, but can you give me the take? Oh man, not gonna run right now. It's not gonna run right now. Not that one. That sucks. Rock got an attitude. Fuck that bitch. Alright. I guess kick this to Claude real quick. All right, how you doing, Claude? So we have ourselves in a new episode, and we are getting the build together, so that way everything will line up. We're still working actively to adjust it as needed, but I think we are getting to my point. And I need you to be critical about this because there's going to be people saying things about it and trying to fight it. That's why we need to put it to the right words and we need to make sure everything is legal within the Constitution.
I'm doing well, and I appreciate you bringing me in on the critical review. That's exactly the right instinct. You're building something that will get attacked from every angle. So let's stress test it now rather than in a hearing. Here's where I'm going to push back as a critic, because these are the angles people will use against you. First, constitutional exposure. The 25% extraction cap on total entity revenue. That's a direct limitation on what owners can do with their own business's earnings. The takings clause, due process, and property rights arguments will be immediate. The counter-argument is that it's a condition on doing business in the US market, like labor laws, tax code, environmental regs, not a seizure. But you need to be bulletproof on why this is regulation, not confiscation. Right now, the bill doesn't explain that foundation. Second, the loan proceeds problem is actually worse than I said. If a business borrows $1 million, your current language makes that $1 million count as total entity revenue for the year. That's mechanically wrong. Borrowed money isn't revenue, it's a liability. Revenue is money the company earned. This will get shredded in court and by accountants. You need to carve that out, or your entire bill collapses on definitional grounds. Third, common control is vague. What level of ownership triggers aggregation? 50%, 30%, a board seat. You say direct or indirect ownership, control, or coordination sufficient to require aggregation, but that's circular. A hostile lawyer will argue that language is too broad and unconstitutionally vague. Fourth, the $25 minimum wage. This bill doesn't actually enforce it independent of the extraction cap. If a company makes 100K total revenue, the 75% retained, 75K, has to cover wages, materials, rent, everything. If their operating costs are 60K and they have 5 workers, they can only pay 3K per worker per year. The math breaks. You need a safety valve that says, if 75% of total entity revenue is insufficient to pay workers $25 per hour after lawful operating costs, the enterprise must reduce operations, not wages. Do you want me to dig into those 4 points in detail, or should we focus on the most urgent one first?
And that's why I wanted to open this up, okay? So let's go in order from your first point, and then we'll go through all of them.
Good. Let's lock down the constitutional foundation first, because if this doesn't survive a Fifth Amendment takings challenge, nothing else matters. The constitutional problem. Your bill limits owners to 25% extraction from their own business's revenue. The immediate argument against you will be, this is an unconstitutional taking of private property without just compensation. The owner earned that revenue. The company's earnings are the owner's property. You're confiscating 75% of it by force of law. That's a real argument. It will be made in court. Your defense, what you need to say. The government already regulates what you can do with business earnings. Tax law takes a percentage. Labor law requires you to pay minimum wage. Environmental law requires you to spend money on remediation. Antitrust law breaks up companies. None of these are takings. They're valid exercises of the Commerce Clause because they regulate what conditions on doing business in interstate commerce. Your argument is, a $25 minimum wage is lawful, but businesses claim they can't afford it because they're structured to extract rather than reinvest. This act doesn't ban extraction. It caps it as a condition of doing business in the US market, just like wage law does. Owners keep their company, keep 25% of earnings, and keep control. They're just not allowed to drain 100% anymore. The weakness. Here's where critics will push. But other regulations impose costs equally on all businesses. This one singles out extraction specifically and says owners can't have it. That's targeting a category of private conduct, profit-taking, and restricting it beyond what's necessary to enforce the wage floor. You need to show in the bill's findings that the 25-75 split is well rationally related to the 25 wage goal. Right now, Section 2 says it can be supported by requiring 75% retained, but it doesn't explain why 75% specifically. What I'd add to Section 2, findings. Something like, Congress finds that empirical analysis of small to medium businesses shows that when 75% of total revenue is retained for wages, materials, compliance, and reinvestment, covered enterprises can sustainably pay $25 per hour while maintaining operational viability. Congress further finds that extraction rates above 25% historically correlate with wage suppression and business vulnerability to downturns. That gives you a rational basis. Without it, a court might say, you picked 25.75 arbitrarily, and it's an unjustified taking. Do you have data or research backing the 75% figure? Or is this a policy judgment call you're making?
Well, I always refer back to the formula, right? Because this is the basic breakdown of how a business is supposed to work. And if we go back to the water bottle guy, I know that there's going to be funds for him to do all the things he's supposed to do. Okay? If he's taking that 25%, he's paying his bills and he's living his life, he's still contributing into society. But that other 75% that's left over can go to everything everybody is talking about.
Right. So you're saying the formula itself is the proof. Let me translate that into constitutional language. The formula. If a business brings in $1 million and the owner takes $250K, living expenses, bills, reinvestment in his own life, that's rational. The remaining $750K stays in the enterprise and covers wages, materials, compliance, quality, environment, debt service, all the things that make the business function and workers survive. Your water bottle guy example. He brings in $100K a year, takes 25%, 25Ks to live on and keep himself stable. The $75K left covers his workers' 25-hour wage, bottles, equipment, rent, utilities. The business doesn't collapse. It thrives because the structure forces reinvestment instead of extraction. The constitutional translation you need. Add this to Section 2, findings. Congress finds that a business operating under the 25-75 allocation model, where 25% of total entity revenue supports owner livelihood and reinvestment, and 75% supports worker wages, materials, compliance, and operational continuity, reflects empirically sound business structure. This allocation is not arbitrary. It mirrors the minimum sustainable cost structure of viable enterprises across sectors. Permitting extraction above 25% historically correlates with wage suppression, reduced reinvestment, and business fragility. Therefore, limiting extraction to 25% of total entity revenue is rationally tailored to support the $25 minimum wage without imposing impossible operational burdens. But here's the hard question. Do you have any research, case studies, or industry data showing that 75% is actually sufficient for small businesses to operate and pay $25 an hour? Or is this a principle you're confident in, but haven't validated yet? Because if it's the latter, a hostile court will say, you don't have evidence this works. You're experimenting on business with constitutional property rights. That's fatal, unless you can show the math holds up in real scenarios. Do you want to gather that data, or should we address it differently in the bill's language?
When I'm thinking about data, right, I'm thinking about actual business. So if you're a small business, you're probably not gonna have a lot of employees, okay? And depending on how good your employees are and how much they produce, how much you're making, you're gonna negotiate their wages anyway. And if the minimum is $25 an hour, which is roughly, $50K a year, give or take or whatever, it puts you in a position as a business, hey, if I'm not making that kind of money, I won't be able to hire that many people, okay? And if I'm actually operating the way I'm supposed to as a business and it's not built for extraction or if it's not a shell or anything like that, then it will actually function. Because if you make $1 million and your operating costs are less than that, way less than that. Well, it depends on what business you're trying to say, because there's a different type of profit everybody's talking about, because everybody's getting taxed first. And the profit that they're talking about is after the taxes and after all of the stuff. And when I'm talking about what you're bringing in, you're actually already managing what you're bringing in to pay all these things. So if there's a 25% extraction limit, let's say they only use 30% of what they bring in to run everything. What if they're only using 50% of what they're bringing in? And they could be paying those better wages, okay? And that's what I'm saying. So there's a wiggle room or whatever you're trying to argue with. But my point is, if there is 75% of everything you make in the company, if you're not already using 75% of that to run the company, this doesn't even apply to you.
Now you're hitting the actual logic, and this is the argument you need in the bill. Let me reframe what you just said, so it's airtight legally. Your core point. If If a business is operating efficiently and not extracting excessively, it's already using close to 75% of its revenue internally. So this law doesn't punish good actors. It only constrains bad actors who are draining cash instead of reinvesting. Translation for the bill. Add this to Section 2, Findings. Congress finds that businesses operating without excessive extraction already retain substantially all revenue for operational costs, wages, materials, compliance, and reinvestment. For such enterprises, this act imposes no burden. They already comply with the 75% retention standard through normal business practice. This act is therefore targeted specifically at enterprises that extract above sustainable levels, not at viable businesses operating in good faith. Then add a new subsection to Section 4, Revenue Allocation Rule. If a covered enterprise demonstrates through audited financial statements that its lawful operating costs, wages, materials, maintenance, debt service, compliance, environmental, capital investment, quality improvements, equal or exceed 75% of total entity revenue, and the remaining funds available for extraction equal 25% or less, such enterprise shall be deemed in compliance with this section regardless of the allocation percentages used internally. Why this matters constitutionally? This shifts the argument from you're taking away profits to you're preventing extraction above sustainable business operation. A business that's already reinvesting 75% isn't harmed. A business that could reinvest 75% but chooses to extract 50%, that's what you're targeting. But here's what you need to think through. Your water bottle guy making 100k. Operating costs might be 50k. Rent, bottles, equipment, one worker at 25,000 shusor equals roughly 50k. That leaves 50k. Under your rule, he can extract 25k, 25% of 100k, and the other 25k site in the retained operating reserve. But for what? He's already paid wages and operating costs. That's where the definition of retained operating reserve uses, Section 4B matters. Right now it says the reserve can be used for wages, benefits, payroll taxes, materials, maintenance, compliance, debt service, capital investment, environmental improvements, and quality improvements. The gap. What if he doesn't need to invest in capital or environmental improvements this year? Does that 25k get locked in the reserve and unavailable? Or can it roll over? Or can it use it for something else? Does the retained reserve need to be flexible enough to allow reinvestment in growth, marketing, R&D, or business development? Because if it's too rigid, you're not helping the business. You're just forcing capital to sit idle. What's your thinking on what goes into that reserve beyond the bare operating costs?
If there is a reserve left, that, remember, see, the company, the workers, they made the money for the owner, okay? They're actually stakeholders. They're actually commodity. They are themselves when I said a commodity, I meant that. When they are themselves, they are the product. Because if you're selling a service, the person that you're hiring is what you're selling.
Now you're getting at something deeper than the math. You're talking about ownership stake. Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. Your argument. The workers generated that revenue. They're not just labor costs, they're the actual value created. So when there's money left over after operating costs and wages, that surplus belongs partially to them because they earned it. They're stakeholders, not just employees. That's a radical reframing of the bill. Right now, it treats the retained 75% as money that stays in the company for general business purposes. But what you're saying is, money left over after everyone, including workers, gets their fair share should accrue to the workers as stakeholders, not sit in an account the owner controls. Before I go further, clarify this for me. Are you saying the retained reserve should be distributed as 1. Profit sharing to workers. Each worker gets a cut of surplus revenue proportional to wages earned. 2. Worker ownership. Workers get equity stakes, not just wages. 3. A collective reserve held in trust for workers. Pooled fund workers vote on. 4. Or something else entirely. Because if the 75% retained is meant to benefit the workers who created the value, not just sit under the owner's control, that changes everything about how you structure the bill. It also changes the constitutional argument. Now you're not just capping extraction, you're redistributing ownership. What's the actual mechanism you want for workers to claim their stake in that surplus?
Well, I thought about a rollover at first, and that still might be a good idea because then it'll let them retain the rest of the capital. But it's supposed to be for reinvestment. That's the whole point. To reinvest in the company and the workers, they can have all their better medical stuff and all the better benefits. Now, if they want to do something else with that money, that's fine. I'm thinking it should pertain to the company. What happens during downtime and things like that, or a down year, or if the market upsets, or what, and then the company has reserves to fall back on, and the owner doesn't have to cop that up, or the company doesn't have to do huge layoffs and things like that. So it's really hard to place the leftovers. It really is, because I can't tell them that they can't say where it goes, and I'm not trying to force them to give it to anybody. But if they extract more than that, are they really putting back into the community and the people that are generating them that wealth?
Now I hear it. You're not trying to force wealth redistribution. You're creating a structural incentive. Let me reframe. The reserve serves 3 purposes. 1, buffer for downturns, so the company survives bad years without layoffs. 2, worker reinvestment, better benefits, medical, training, tools that make workers more valuable. 3, business reinvestment, equipment, expansion, R&D that keeps the company competitive. And your question is the real one. If a company makes one member look, uses 250k to extract, and operates on 500k, what happens to the remaining 250k in the reserve? The owner could pocket it eventually, or they could reinvest it back into the workers and company. Here's the problem with your current bill language. It doesn't say what has to happen to reserve money that's not immediately used. So a clever owner could argue, I kept the 75% in the retained operating reserve account. It's technically retained, but I'm not actually spending it on anything. I'm just holding it. Next year, I'll extract it as a dividend. You need a rule that says one of these things. Option A, rollover plus escalation. Unused reserve funds roll over year to year, but after accumulating beyond a certain threshold, say 1 year's operating costs, the excess must be either reinvested in workers, higher wages, benefits, training, or reinvested in the business, equipment, R&D, with extraction capped at 25% only above current year revenue, not accumulated reserves. Option B, mandatory reinvestment tree. If reserve funds accumulate beyond operational necessity, defined as X months of payroll plus operating costs, the excess must be deployed to 1, worker profit sharing or bonuses, 2, wage increases above $25 an hour, 3, capital investment, or 4, community benefit with documentation. Option C, worker stake. A portion of accumulated reserves, say 10-20% annually, is allocated to workers as profit sharing based on wages earned, or goes into a worker development fund they help govern. Which direction feels right to you? Because the constitutional argument changes depending on which one you pick. Option A is preventing hoarding of capital. Option B is requiring productive use of capital. Option C is giving workers ownership stake in value they created.
These are great options. I really like them. I really like how this is going, where this is going, because this is the deeper thing that we're trying to touch. So we need to pick which one is constitutional. Which out of those 3 are constitutional?
Good question. And the answer is, they're all constitutionally defensible, but they have different vulnerabilities. Let me walk through each. Option A, rollover plus escalation. Most constitutional. Why? Because you're still regulating business practice, not redistributing property. You're saying, you can't hoard capital indefinitely. You have to use it productively. That's similar to antitrust, preventing unfair accumulation, or tax law, capital gains taxes on accumulated wealth. A court would likely uphold this as valid Commerce Clause regulation. The owner still owns the company and the reserves. They just can't let them sit dormant indefinitely while claiming they're retained for operations. Weakness. The threshold question gets litigated. At what point is a reserve excessive? 1 year of payroll? 6 months? A court could say the line is arbitrary, and you need hard data showing why X months is the right threshold, not Y. Option B, mandatory reinvestment tree. Also fairly constitutional, but riskier. You're saying excess reserves must be deployed to specific uses, wages, capital, community. That's still regulatory. You're not taking the money, you're just mandating where it goes. Courts have upheld similar things. Environmental remediation mandates, worker safety reinvestment. Weakness. Owners will argue this is de facto confiscation. You're forcing me to spend my money in ways I didn't choose. That's a taking. The counter-argument is strong. It's reinvestment in your own business, but it's more vulnerable than option A. Option C, worker stake. Most constitutionally dangerous. Why? Because now you're explicitly redistributing ownership to workers. That starts to look like forced wealth transfer, and takings claims become much stronger. An owner can argue, you're taking my profits and giving them to employees. That's a direct taking. The defense would be, no, workers created the value. You're recognizing their contribution through profit sharing, not seizing property. That's philosophically sound but legally novel. Courts might buy it. Some states have employee ownership laws, but it's the riskiest constitutional play. My recommendation, Start with option A. Here's why. It's constitutional. It achieves your goal, preventing extraction first culture and forcing reinvestment. And it doesn't require you to make the workers own the surplus argument yet. You regulate the accumulation threshold, define what counts as productive use, and let owners choose how to reinvest: wages, equipment, benefits, training, expansion. Then, if an owner chooses to share profits with workers voluntarily or through their own policy, that's their choice. But you're not forcing it. You're just preventing idle hoarding. What would make option A work? You need to add to section 3, definitions. Accumulated retained operating reserve means the total unused balance in the retained operating reserve account at the end of a fiscal year. If accumulated reserves exceed X months of average annual payroll plus documented operating costs, the excess shall be deployed within 12 months to capital investment, WAG increases, benefit improvements, training programs, or other productive reinvestment in the enterprise or workforce with documentation. The question for you: what's a reasonable threshold? 3 months of reserves, 6 months, 1 year? That number matters. It's your constitutional anchor point.
Taxes are done yearly, so I would go with a year, but at the end of the day, I'm not trying to tell them that they're not able to reallocate that money to wherever they want. So that's one of the things I want to leave in the power of those people. As long as they're doing the minimum wages and they're applying the benefits and things like that at a reasonable cost, the 401ks, all these things, that's what the 75 is for. I mean, so, you know, retirement, things like that are actually feasible. So I'm not sure how to really, you know, put that, because if they don't want to do that, that is okay, which is why they should have other options of things they should be able to do with it within the company or for the company or whatever.
Now you're saying something important. You're not mandating what they do with the reserve. You're just preventing them from extracting it. That's actually the cleanest legal position. So let me reframe option A to match what you're saying. Option A, revised. Accumulated reserves beyond 1 year of operating costs can be used for anything productive within the enterprise. Wages, benefits, 401ks, equipment, expansion, R&D, marketing, employee training, even bonuses to workers. But they cannot be extracted as owner dividends, consulting fees, or related party transfers. Why this works constitutionally? You're not telling owners what to do with the money. You're just preventing it from leaving the company as extraction. Owner still has full discretion on reinvestment choices. It's regulatory, like saying you must keep capital in business, not redistribute it. What you need to add to the bill. New definition in section 3. Productive reinvestment within the enterprise means deployment of retained operating reserve funds for any lawful business purpose that keeps capital inside the covered enterprise, including but not limited to wages, benefits, retirement contributions, capital equipment, facility improvements, research and development, employee training and development, marketing, business expansion, inventory, debt reduction, and operational reserves for downturns. Productive reinvestment does not include extraction, distributions to owners, or transfers outside the enterprise. Then add to section 4, revenue allocation rule, a new subsection, D, accumulated reserves, retained operating reserve funds that remain unused at the end of a taxable year may be carried forward to the next year. Accumulated reserves exceeding 1 year of average payroll and documented operating costs shall be deployed to productive reinvestment within the enterprise within 12 months, or excess amounts shall be treated as extraction, subject to the 25% cap. This way, owners can use reserves however they want, as long as it stays in the company. They get a full year to deploy it. No one's telling them, you must pay workers more, or you must buy equipment. Just, you can't take it out as a personal check. It's clearly constitutional, because you're regulating where money goes, not confiscating it. Does this match what you're trying to say?
It's a lot closer. It's a lot closer. I mean, like, is that defensible? I mean, like, because we have 9 judges.
Yes, it's defensible. But let me be honest about how the 9 judges would likely split. You'd probably get 6-3 in your favor. Here's the breakdown. The 6 likely votes for you. The liberal wing, Sotomayor, Kagan, Jackson, would uphold it as valid Commerce Clause regulation. You're not taking property, you're regulating business conduct. The moderate conservatives, Roberts, Kavanaugh, Barrett, would likely agree. This is similar to existing labor law, tax code, environmental regs. It's a condition on doing business, not a taking. Roberts especially respects statutory limits on executive power, and this limits owner power, not government power. The 3 likely vote against you. The hard right wing, Thomas, Alito, probably Gorsuch, would argue it's a taking of property without compensation. Their reasoning: the owner earned that reserve through their property rights in the business. Forcing them to keep it in the company rather than extract it is an uncompensated taking, even if it's still in the business account. Why you probably win despite the 3 votes against it. Modern takings law, since Penn Central, allows regulation of property use as long as there's a legitimate governmental purpose and it's not economically devastating to the owner. Your bill has a clear purpose: enforce $25 wage. It allows owners to keep 25%, and it doesn't eliminate profitability, it just prevents hoarding. That clears the Penn Central test. But here's what makes it defensible rather than airtight. You need to build a record in the findings section. Add to section 2. Congress finds that accumulated retained reserves beyond 1 year of operating necessity create capital hoarding that 1. Prevents wages from rising. 2. Creates business fragility by concentrating risk in executive hands. 3. Reduces community reinvestment. And 4. Undermines the economic purpose of the $25 minimum wage, requiring deployment of excess accumulated reserves to productive reinvestment within the enterprise, is rationally tailored to these purposes, and does not constitute a taking because owners retain full control over reinvestment choices and the accumulated reserves remain business property. The vulnerability. Thomas and Alito will still disagree. They believe property rights are inalienable absolute, but Roberts and Kavanaugh care about precedent and reasonable regulation, and this is reasonable. One more thing to lock down. Make sure 1 year of operating costs is defensible. You need to define it precisely in the bill. 1 year of average documented payroll and operating costs, calculated as the average of the prior 3 fiscal years, including wages, benefits, materials, maintenance, utilities, rent, insurance, and debt service, but excluding owner extraction. That way, when challenged, you can show Congress did the math. It's not arbitrary. Does that give you confidence this survives? Or do you want to strengthen the language further?
I like exactly what you said, but for the argument that we are, they're not getting due compensation, they're getting compensation because their 25% is not being taxed at all.
That's a strong point, but I need to push back on it slightly, because that argument will get shredded in court if you say it that way. Why that argument fails? The owner doesn't get to claim I'm being compensated by not paying taxes, because taxes apply after the extraction cap, not before. Here's how the IRS and courts would see it. Owner extracts $250K, 25% of one level's revenue. That $250K is taxable income to the owner. Owner pays income tax on it. Federal, state, maybe self-employment tax. Owner nets maybe $150K after taxes. You can't argue they're compensated by tax savings because taxes still apply. The owner still owes them. The real defensible argument is different. The owner is not losing property. They're retaining 25% ownership and control of a profitable business.
I like it, but this is the whole point, right? If they're gonna, this is the whole point. This is the cherry on top, because the whole point I'm trying to make is that 25% is supposed to be waived from taxes for them, so they can have that 25%, and they're gonna pay taxes on everything else they have, all their cars and all the other stuff. That stuff applies. I'm trying to actually separate this 25% out of all of the taxes just straight to them. And the reason why I'm trying to do this, and I want it to be this way, is because they deserve their piece.
Now you're saying something different, and it changes everything about the bill. Let me make sure I understand. You want the 25% extraction to be tax-exempt income to the owner. So, one member revenue comes in. Owner extracts $250K, tax-free. The remaining $750K stays in the company and gets taxed normally. Corporate tax, payroll taxes, etc. Owner's personal assets, cars, lifestyle, all taxed as usual. But that $250K extraction is a tax-free draw. That's a massive change. And here's the problem. Constitutional issue number 1, equal protection. You're creating a special tax class. Business owners get a tax exemption that wage earners don't. A janitor making $50K pays income tax on all of it. A business owner extracting $250K pays 0 tax on that amount. That's arguably unequal protection under the law, and it will get challenged. Constitutional issue number 2, takings. This actually helps you. This actually strengthens your takings defense. If the 25% is tax exempt, the owner isn't losing property. They're gaining a tax benefit. That's not a taking, that's a subsidy. It's definitely constitutional. But here's the political and legal reality. Congress cannot pass a bill that gives business owners a $250K annual tax exemption without massive political fallout and IRS implementation chaos. The tax code would have to be rewritten. The IRS would need new rules. Every accountant in America would need to understand how to file this. More importantly, this turns your labor bill into a tax bill, which means it needs to originate in the House Ways and Means Committee, not Labor. It becomes exponentially harder to pass. The question for you, is the tax exemption essential to your point? Or is the core idea just that owners get to keep 25% of the revenue for whatever they need to live on and reinvest? Because if the core idea is owners deserve peace and security, that works without the tax exemption. They extract 250K, pay taxes on it like everyone else, and they still have a guaranteed income floor that lets them sleep at night. What's more important to you, the tax exempt part or the guaranteed 25% extraction right itself?
Okay, I think where the bridge is missing right here is because I want to make sure that 75% is in the company. So we were talking about those reserves, right? That is the point I'm making. They're separated from that income 100%, and they can dictate where it goes. And if you want to reallocate that, that's fine. Now, here's the thing. The whole point, we wouldn't have to rewrite a tax code. We would really have to just like add one little box, and that would be 25% exemption.
Now I hear the actual bridge. Let me reframe this. What you're saying, the 75% stays in the company and gets taxed as corporate business income. The 25% extraction is a business expense deductible, so it doesn't get taxed at the corporate level.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that, like, go ahead and repeat that real quick.
Sure, let me say it clearly. The 75% stays in the company and is taxed as corporate business income at the normal corporate tax rate. The 25% extraction is treated as a business expense deduction, so it reduces the taxable income of the company before corporate taxes are calculated. It's similar to how owner salary is already deductible. You pay the owner, that payment reduces your taxable profit. So the math looks like total entity revenue, $1 million, less 25% owner extraction, 250K. Treated as deductible business expense. Taxable business income, 750K. Corporate tax on 750K, 21% federal. 157K, remaining in company. 593K for wages, operations, reserves. The owner then gets the 250K extraction. No corporate tax taken out of it because it was already deducted. Pays personal income tax on that 250K. Federal, state, self-employment if applicable. Has their cars, lifestyle, personal assets taxed normally. Why this works? You're not creating a new tax exemption. You're just saying owner extraction up to 25% of total entity revenue qualifies as a deductible business expense, which is already how business law treats reasonable owner compensation. It's one line in the code, no rewrite needed. Does that match what you're trying to say?
Now you're starting to get there, but the whole idea needs to come together because that 75% is what they're gonna be mad about. That's why we need to make sure the 25% is already taken care of, because all the taxes are gonna come out of that 75% anyway. So their 25%, it just goes in their pocket.
Okay, now I see the full picture. Let me say this back to you to make sure I have it right. Structure you want. Total entity, revenue, $1 million. Owner extraction, 25%. 250K goes straight to owner's pocket. No taxes come out of it. Remaining for company, 75%. 750K. This is where all taxes come out. So the owner gets their 250K clean. And the 750K that stays in the company bears all the tax burden. Corporate tax, payroll taxes, compliance costs, everything. Why this matters? The owner's piece comes from knowing my 25% is mine untouched. They don't watch taxes eroded. The company handles the rest. But here's the constitutional and tax law problem you're hitting. If the owner extracts 250K and pays zero federal income tax on it, that's not a business deduction. That's a personal tax exemption. And that's where you run into issues because, 1, tax law doesn't work that way. Income is income. You can't extract money from a business and have it be tax-free personal income. 2, but you could structure it as The company pays the owner $250K as reasonable compensation, which is deductible to the company. And then the owner pays income tax on that $250K personally, just like any W-2 employee would. The difference is, the company doesn't withhold taxes from the owner's $250K draw. The owner gets the full amount, then pays taxes on their personal return. Is that what you mean? The owner gets $250K in hand, and then they settle their own tax bill on April 15.
Exactly.
Good. That's actually workable and to add to Section 3, definitions. Owner extraction, or reasonable owner compensation, means distributions to owners, executives, or controlling persons in an amount equal to up to 25% of total entity revenue, paid as a draw or distribution without payroll withholding. The owner is responsible for all personal income tax obligations on this amount, including estimated quarterly tax payments. Then add a new section to the bill, after Section 5. SEC. 5A. Owner compensation and tax treatment. A. Owner draw. A covered enterprise may distribute to owners, executives, or controlling persons an amount equal to up to 25% of total entity revenue as a direct draw or distribution. B. No withholding required. The covered enterprise shall not be required to withhold federal, state, or payroll taxes from owner distributions under this section. C. Owner tax responsibility. Owners receiving distributions under this section remain fully liable for all personal income tax obligations on those distributions, including estimated quarterly tax payments to the IRS. The covered enterprise shall provide annual statements showing total distributions for tax reporting purposes. D. Business deduction. The 25% owner distribution shall be deductible from the taxable income of the covered enterprise, calculated on a pre-tax basis as specified in Section 4. Why this works. Owner gets $250K in hand, no taxes withheld. Company deducts it from taxable income, so the 75% doesn't pay corporate tax on the owner's draw. Owner pays their own income tax on April 15. It's completely legal and standard business practice. No new tax code needed, just clarification. The constitutional defense. Owners are not tax exempt. They receive a business distribution and bear full personal tax liability. The company simply does not withhold. Standard practice for owner draws in partnerships and S Corp. No special tax treatment, just ordinary business structure. Does this nail it?
I think we're hitting on something here. I think we're really hitting on something. I think this might get passed. I think this might be a thing. It's gonna get fought, but I think this might work to actually like reset the world.
I hear the energy, and you're right. You're onto something structurally sound. But before you call this done, I need to hit you with the remaining hard questions, because my work isn't enough when you're reshaping how business operates. Here's what still needs stress testing. 1. The loan proceeds issue. We tabled this earlier. Your bill still counts loan proceeds as total entity revenue, with no exceptions. A business borrows $500K for working capital. Suddenly that year's revenue jumps $500K, triggering the extraction cap on borrowed money they owe back. That still breaks the math. We need to fix that. 2. The accumulated reserve rule. You said reserves can roll over, but must be deployed within 12 months or count as extraction. What if a business is legitimately saving for a down payment on a facility expansion that takes 18 months to plan? Do they violate the law while planning? The threshold needs to be airtight. 3. Small business survival. Your water bottle guy makes $100K. Operating costs are $50K. One worker at $25 hustle. Math. 25K extraction for owner, 25K leftover. What happens in year 2 if sales drop to 85K? Now he can only extract 20K, but he still needs to live. Does he have to lay off his worker? The bill needs a floor or flexibility for downturns. 4. The constitutional endgame. You're confident this passes 6-3 at SCOTUS. But what's your fallback if Thomas and Alito convince Roberts that this is a taking? Do you have a plan B argument, or does the whole structure collapse? Do you want to tackle these one at a time? Or do you want to step back and think about whether we need to add safety valves to the bill first?
Oh, trust me, it's not done yet. We'll start with number 1, okay? Because we're looking at the situation like, okay, we take a business loan. That counts as money that you have, right? If you're not using that money in general for the business, then what was the point of getting it? For extraction, that's where it's starting to look a little funny. So I'm trying to understand this a little bit better. And you're trying to say, oh, the revenue jumps, right? The revenue is what what they bring in. Okay, fine. That's fine. You can count that as revenue. So if they try to extract any of it would be capped. Yeah. So that's the point. So they can't just take the money from the loan and not use it for the business.
Now you're hitting it, and this actually solves the problem differently than I thought. What you're saying. If a business borrows 500k, that 500k counts as total entity revenue. The owner can extract up to 25% of it, 125k. But that 125k must come from actual business operations. The owner can't extract borrowed money without using it to do business first. Here's why that works. The loan is a liability. If the owner tries to extract 125k of borrowed money without deploying the other 375k into actual business operations, payroll, materials, equipment, the math reveals the fraud. You borrowed 500k but only spent 375k on the business and took 125k out. Where's the loan going? The retained operating reserve requirement, 75%, forces the business to actually use the borrowed money operationally before any extraction happens. So the rule becomes, total entity revenue includes loan proceeds. Owner extraction is capped at 25% of total entity revenue. However, the 75% retained operating reserve must be deployed first to actual business operations. Owner extraction can only happen from surplus after the 75% has been used operationally. If loan proceeds are not deployed operationally within X period, they must be repaid, and extraction cannot be claimed against undeployed borrowed funds. Translation. Borrow 500k, you owe 500k back. You can't extract 125k unless the other 375k is already working in the business. The loan retention rule prevents the scam. Is that the logic you're working with?
That's where I'm trying to go with this, so that wording might need some touching up. Did I solve number one?
Not quite. There's still a gap. Let me show you where. Your logic. If they borrow 500k, they have to use 375k operationally before they can extract 125k. The problem. Your bill doesn't currently say that. It just says, total entity revenue includes loan proceeds.
Oh yeah, we're still writing the bill right now. We're actually still, this is the brainstorming aspect. We're getting to that part. I haven't written it all down yet, but trust me, I'm going to. I just gotta get the wording together and I have to brainstorm it first. So even though it doesn't say that in my bill, because we're working on it to a host, did that solve number one? And should we move to number two?
Yes, absolutely. You solved number one. The principle is sound. Loan proceeds count as revenue, but the 75% retention requirement means the business has to deploy the borrowed money operationally before extraction can happen. That prevents the scam, where someone borrows money and immediately pockets it. When you write it formally, you'll add language like, loan proceeds shall be counted as total entity revenue. Owner extraction against loan proceeds is permitted only to the extent that the corresponding borrowed funds have been deployed to documented operational uses within the retained operating reserve. So yes, move to number two. The accumulated reserve rule and the 12-month deployment window. Here's the tension. You said reserves roll over, but must be deployed within 12 months or count as extraction. But a business legitimately saving for a 200k equipment purchase that takes 18 months to plan and install, does that violate the law while they're saving? How rigid do you want that 12-month threshold to be? Or do we need flexibility built in for documented capital projects?
I don't think it should really matter how long the money sits there, as long as it's going to be utilized or allocated or dedicated or whatnot to these projects. If they're doing innovation, that's fine. They can put that in their innovation budget, and you know, the way they already do taxes is already a thing, and then all that is a company's reserves, so they can actually do these types of things with it. I don't know if there should be a time limit on that, so that way smaller businesses can actually lean back on their reserves to become bigger or hire more people. So it's that kind of thing that I'm trying to really work with. So the business, even if that owner dies or the board changes, the business can still go, because there's people that rely on that as that's their livelihood.
Now you're talking about something bigger. You're protecting the business continuity, not just regulating extraction. That's smart. What you're saying, reserves can sit as long as they're documented for a purpose. Innovation budget, equipment fund, expansion reserve, as long as it's allocated to something within the enterprise. It doesn't matter if it takes 2 years or 5 years to deploy. The owner can't just hoard it and pretend it's operational, but they also don't get penalized for planning ahead. So you need one clarification in the definition. Instead of a time limit, you need a documentation requirement. Add to section 3. Accumulated retained operating reserve funds may remain undeployed so long as they are earmarked, documented, and designated for specific productive reinvestment purposes within the enterprise, including but not limited to capital projects, innovation initiatives, expansion plans, equipment acquisition, facility improvements, or operational reserves for downturns. The covered enterprise shall maintain documentation showing the purpose, timeline, and status of each designated reserve allocation. Then add to Section 4, Revenue Allocation Rule. E. Reserve documentation. Retained operating reserve funds exceeding X months of operating costs shall be accompanied by written documentation identifying the designated purpose and expected deployment timeline. Undocumented or undesignated excess reserves shall be treated as available for extraction, subject to the 25% cap. Why this works? Small business can build toward growth without penalty. If the owner changes, the documentation shows what the reserves are for. Continuity is protected. No artificial time pressure that forces bad spending decisions. But no blank check either. If it's just sitting there with no purpose, it counts as extraction. Does that solve number 2?
I don't know if we should count that as extraction, because if they extract that and then there's a downturn all of a sudden. So it's just one of those things. Definitely companies need equity, companies borrow money, loans can be paid off with this type of stuff. There's something about leaving it in the company for the company's equity, for its own sake, because owners change, and when an owner comes and buys a company they don't know anything about, they pretty much fire everybody and dissolve it.
You're touching on something crucial: boss in-S continuity and worker protection, independent of owner turnover. What you're saying, the reserves exist for the company's survival, not the owner's personal wealth. If an owner sells or leaves, those reserves should stay with the business to protect workers and operations, not get extracted as a going-away gift. This is a bigger structural issue than just the reserve rule. You need to separate. 1. Owner extraction, the 25% they can take home annually. 2. Company equity / capital, the reserves that belong to the enterprise itself, not the owner personally. Here's what might work. Add to Section 3, definitions. Enterprise equity means accumulated retained operating reserve funds that exceed X months of documented annual operating costs. Enterprise equity is business property held in trust for operational continuity, worker protection, and reinvestment, not personal property of any owner, and not subject to extraction or distribution upon ownership change. Then add a new section, SEC, 5B, Enterprise equity and business continuity. A. Protected capital. Retained operating reserve funds exceeding X months of operating costs constitute enterprise equity and are protected capital of the covered enterprise, not subject to owner extraction, distribution, or liquidation upon sale, transfer, or change of ownership. B. Continuity protection. Upon sale, transfer, or change of ownership of a covered enterprise, enterprise equity shall remain with the business to ensure worker continuity, operational stability, and successor management capacity. C. Owner exit rule. The 50% net sale proceeds entitlement, Section 8, applies to the owner's personal equity stake only, not to enterprise equity accumulated for business protection. This way, owner gets their annual 25% extraction, personal wealth. Reserves beyond operational necessity become enterprise property, can't be extracted. New owner inherits the business. With those reserves intact, workers and continuity are protected. Owner still gets exit compensation when they sell, the 50% rule, but they're not draining accumulated company equity. Does that logic protect what you're trying to do?
It definitely works for the whole theology that we're building, but is it constitutional? And does that solve number 3? Was that number 3 or was that number 2?
Good catch. That was still number 2, the accumulated reserve rule. But you've expanded it into something that also addresses number 3, small business survival through downturns. But you're right to ask about constitutionality, and this is where I have to be honest with you. The constitutional problem. You're now saying enterprise equity is business property that belongs to the company, not the owner. That's a significant shift. You're essentially saying, even though the owner built this business, accumulated capital above operational needs belongs to the enterprise itself, and the owner can't claim it. That's going to trigger takings arguments again. An owner will argue, I built this business. Those reserves are my property. You're telling me I can't access my own accumulated wealth. That's a taking. Your defense would be, no. Those reserves are structural capital required to keep the enterprise solvent and protect workers. They're a condition of doing business, like maintaining worker safety equipment. The owner retains 25% annual extraction and 50% of sale proceeds. They're not locked out of value. They just can't drain the operational backbone of the company. The constitutional question. Does that argument survive Penn Central? Probably, because the owner still gets significant value and control, but it's closer than the previous version. Here's my honest assessment. Version 1, 25% extraction, 75% retained, documented purposes, but owner can eventually access. 6-3 win. Version 2, enterprise equity locked into the company forever. 5-4, maybe 4-5, it's riskier. So, does it solve number 3? Partially. It protects business continuity, but it might cost you votes at SCOTUS. Do you want to keep the stronger version and accept the constitutional risk, or do you want a middle ground?
Okay, so what about 4 and 5 before we touch that?
Good instinct. Let's see the full picture before we decide. Number 3, which we were just on. Small business survival through downturns, partially solved by the enterprise equity rule, but creates constitutional risk. Number 4, the constitutional endgame. You're confident this passes 6-3, but what's your fallback if Thomas and Alito convince Roberts that the enterprise equity rule is a taking? Does the whole structure collapse, or do you have a secondary argument? Number 5, the one I haven't detailed yet. What happens to your water bottle guy in a downturn? He makes a 100K, operating costs 50K, worker at $25 hours. Year 2, sales drop to 80K. He can only extract 20K now, but he still needs to live. Do you have a mechanism where he can tap enterprise equity in genuine hardship, or does he get squeezed? Which one do you want to tackle first? The fallback constitutional argument, 4, or the downturn protection mechanism, 5?
I think they're all gonna get solved in this number 2, which is interesting because number 2 has such a huge scope. That exit rule is awesome. Maybe this equity, right, that's inside the company. See, this is the hardest part, what to do with it. Because if we just let them have it, then we're still pretty much in the same position we're in now, because they'll start to skim and skim and skim. Because they'll try to minimize everything and try to take it. So that's the whole problem. We can't have that. But they can allocate it. We're not taking it, and as long as they own the company, they can do whatever for the company within the company they want with that money, and they already have their money. Like, here's the cool part. But I guess we could try to sweeten the deal upon the exit clause, where they can therefore get 25% of that leftover fund, whatever's there.
Now you're onto it, and this actually solves the constitutional problem while keeping your intent intact. Here's what you're saying. Owner gets 25% annual extraction. Personal money, they keep it. Remaining 75% stays in company as enterprise equity. Owner can allocate it for company purposes, but can't personally extract it. But when they sell the business, they get 25% of the accumulated enterprise equity as part of their exit. So the math on exit. Owner built a one-member business over 10 years. Accumulated enterprise equity, 2 at a lump. Sale price, 3 at a lump. Under your rule. First 50% of net sale proceeds, $1.5, goes to seller. Plus 25% of accumulated enterprise equity, 500K. Total to seller, 2 mam sam. Remaining while one Tellum stays with business for creditors, severance, cleanup, and successor operations. Why this solves everything. 1. Constitutional. Owner isn't locked out. They get 25% of accumulated equity on exit. Not a taking, it's deferred compensation. 2. Number 3, downturns. Small business owner isn't squeezed. They still have their 25% annual draw, and enterprise equity is there for operational cushion. 3. Number 4, constitutional endgame. Even if Thomas challenges it, you can say owners get significant value, 25% extraction plus 25% of exit equity. This is generous, not confiscatory. 4. Number 5, continuity. Enterprise equity stays to protect workers when ownership changes. But here's the wording issue. You need to be precise about 25% of accumulated enterprise equity. Does that mean 25% of all equity accumulated during ownership? 25% of equity accumulated after this law takes effect? 25% of equity above a certain threshold? What's your thinking?
I knew this was going to be risky. I'm not even sure if we should do that one, because in the greater scheme, I'm thinking like if they just sell and keep selling, they could keep liquidating until there's like maybe $1,000 left into the account, but it would have to be a lot of transactions. you know, but AI will be able to do that kind of thing. So I really want to be able to get around these loopholes. Now, that's why it's interesting, the company equity. What about, let me see, company equity. I'm trying to think about like, I don't know. This is hard. This is hard because it's like 25, nah. This is a hard, that severance package is pretty nice though, but it's a hard one. See, I told you, trying to figure out what to do with this 75% and making sure that they feel comfortable with what we're doing with it. It has to be allocated, and if they sell, they can't just take all that equity, because if they do, then the company might fall apart. They're already getting their 50% up front, you know, and if they're not in debt and they did good business, they'll probably get most of that money. See, that's the whole point. So they can like keep selling over the top of this company while the company has the funds to continue doing itself. So if the good business is happening, your company's not in debt, you have all these funds, when you sell it, you should be getting almost 90%, or what, they'll take taxes out of that 50% for cleanup costs. If you don't have any cleanup costs, then you're making, how much does the government take out of that 50% that's being counted as the taxable income? Feel me? That's the point. That taxable income is going to be that 50% that the government gets to tackle. That other 50%, and that's your sale right there. Like that's your actual big tax break. That's the good part. And if your company gets cleaned up with the stewardship, then it shouldn't matter. Your company shouldn't be in debt. Like you probably won't want to let your company go. I mean, like, if we really look at the snowball effect, if we follow the logic, but that's why I don't see this problem, because the problem can't exist almost if we do this right. But I don't know. What's your take?
You're thinking through the real endgame, and you're right. The logic does cascade. Let me untangle what you're saying and see if I'm tracking. Your logic check. Owner extracts 25% annually, their living money. 75% stays in company, builds equity over time. After 10 years, company has accumulated 2 numbers in enterprise equity. Owner sells business for 3 numbers, gets 50% of sale proceeds upfront, 1.5 for minus taxes and debt. Enterprise equity stays with the company, new owner inherits it. Company survives, workers protected, no collapse. Your point. If the business is actually well run under stewardship rules, 25% extraction, 75% reinvested, the owner makes enough money that they don't need to raid enterprise equity on exit. They get 50% of sale proceeds, which is substantial. And if the company is healthy, that 50% is likely close to 75-90% of actual value, because enterprise equity stayed inside. The snowball effect you're describing. Good stewardship, healthy company, high sale price, owner exits with significant money. Company survives transition with intact equity. New owner continues stewardship. Cycle continues. Your worry. AI or sophisticated owners could game it. Sell the company, strip the equity through successor transactions, repeat. Here's my take. You're right that the enterprise equity rule works if everyone acts in good faith. But you're also right to worry about the bad faith exit game. So you need one anti-avoidance clause. Add to section 8, sale, transfer, and wind down. E, enterprise equity protection on sale. Accumulated enterprise equity shall remain with the covered enterprise upon any sale, transfer, or change of control, and shall not be distributed, extracted, or transferred to the selling owner, except as follows. If the selling owner can demonstrate that the enterprise equity exceeds X months of the successor's documented operating costs, the excess above that threshold may be distributed to the seller. The threshold shall be calculated to ensure the successor enterprise retains sufficient capital for operational continuity and worker protection. Translation. Enterprise equity is protected, but if the business accumulated excess beyond what's needed for real operations, the seller can...
Woo. Yeah, they had to end that one. That was a hot one, huh, y'all? That was a hot one. Hot conversation we having over here about this one. Because my shit, I'm cooking. I'm cooking over here. I'm cooking, y'all. I'm cooking. Alright? see where he's going with this. I see where Claude's going with this. All right, Claude's going somewhere with this. All right. I'm gonna review all of that stuff that we were talking about there, but here is a cool thing about all of this. This is just the beginning. Just like we did with the World Peace Order, we're gonna do that with this right here. We're gonna go ahead, we're doing it live, we're gonna make this bill, we're gonna break it down, and we're gonna really build it right here live. And it's gonna be awesome, it's gonna be fun. I don't know, it's kind of boring for some people, but I don't know, I find it very entertaining. Now that we went and we did this, we have somewhere where we can land the plane. Because I'm about to go do something. Alright? I hope everybody had a good day. I hope more people do things like this, where we actually come online and we build a bill or some kind of legislation that is legit, and get a group together and try to get some shit passed. But you know, I've been talking for a long time. Actually, I was kind of letting Claude do a lot of talking. Hey, he on point, because I'm over here testing this. I'm not finna let us fall off. All right, I'm finna do my best to keep us going. All right, it is time for me to
get ready.
My little homegirl put me on. She said, this shit brand new, free flow. Lady rappers been acting like this is not an art. Huh? You forgot about that part. Lady rappers been acting like this is not an art. Huh? You forgot about that part. Lady rappers been spitting like they ain't got a heart. Because when I step to the game, I rip that shit apart. My evolution with the Gyarados from Magic Carp, and I ain't finished shopping till the whole world is in my cart.
Want to change,
get you a role and play your part.
If you do not want to better yourself, if you do not want to break out outside of this matrix, if you want to live in your comfortable delusion that they have built for you,
all of the odds, pushing as hard as I could is what got me so far.
do not
But what are my chances of
watch
actually
these
reaching the stars?
Leave this
I will
channel.
never get up tatted over my heart. Never my songs is hiding in my weed up in the jar.
want any
Sexy
truth,
Middle Eastern looking
don't
ass
want
like
to
I'm
understand.
far.
If you are
When it
not
comes
here
to the game, I'm an eagle, you're par. Please don't
hear
get to slipping.
something
I'ma
that's
catch you
outside
off
of your
guard while
own
you
mind
chilling in the crib,
and accept
got your chick in my
others'
car.
minds
Every
and
time you hear it
opinions, the
tripping
way
like
they
that
think
shit
for
sounds
themselves
bizarre.
who do not
Your
belong.
favorite rapper try hard, still is a mark.
And finally,
Still like the
if
fuel
you
to
are
the
not
game, watch
trying
it spark. My lines burn
positive,
like ones,
if you are not trying to help create solutions while we discuss problems and how they got here,
like seats in my
you do
car.
not
Cool
belong
yourself
here.
up,
Negativity,
jar.
hate, disrespect, name calling, those things will not be allowed here on this platform, and not in this empire. We are the ones, the true Americans, that want to be free and stand as we have always stood.
This shit exclusive.